Okay, wrapping up the week here on the sheet for this Friday, March the 20th. Thanks so much for joining me here today. Glad to have you aboard, whether you are listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching us on YouTube. We thank you in this economy of attention for spending some time with us here on the sheet. Hope you had an enjoyable week. It was a pretty interesting week by way of hockey topics, most notably off the ice rather than on the ice. And we're going to get into them with a couple of special guests here. Brian Burke standing by, Dave Pagnotta, bottom of the hour as well. So we're going to sort of do a week in review and then have a look at what's ahead this weekend for the NHL and really hockey at large, because there's a lot of other things happening away from the NHL, which affects the NHL, which we are going to get into right after we do this. The Blueprint is powered by FanDuel. Download the app today and play your game on FanDuel. He is standing by. Normally he joins us Wednesdays. We didn't do a program this week, so he's joining us on a Friday, and he seems to be everywhere. Today he's in Brantford. He is Brian Burke. He will talk to us about the general managers meetings. We will talk about the Department of Player Safety with Burke. He was the OG, folks. He was the original, and a couple of other things. If we get into it, maybe the history of manager meetings as well. Burke was had a ringside seat to a very interesting general manager meeting once upon a time. We'll get there if we have time. Listener questions for Burke as well. I'll get them in. Dave Pagnotta stops by, DFO Insider. We'll talk about college free agents. I'm really curious to see where TJ Hughes ends up. We'll see if Dave has an update there, and with other college free agents as well, and NHL expansion on the horizon. Atlanta looking your direction, Houston as well. In the meantime, he's a man that's worn a number of hats, and a number of different times his name has been uttered because he was the first to wear the badge for the NHL, heading up what we now know as the Department of Player Safety. Joining us from Bulldogs land in Brantford, Ontario, he is Brian Burke. Burke, first of all, thanks for joining me. What are you doing? What are you doing in Spencer Hyman country?
Spencer Hyman, I've become friends with Spencer. I'm just kind of watching him play a few games. I've been to maybe half a dozen games.
Yeah.
Trying to help out a little bit. Not really a formal role, just trying to help out.
Well, I mean, that team, we were there a couple of weeks ago, and we were there for the Oshawa game, and Michael Andlauer's the inaugural entrant into the Bulldogs Hall of Fame, and it was a lovely evening, and they beat the Oshawa Generals. And, you know, when you look up and down the lineup, Burke, and you've seen junior hockey teams like this before, Jake O'Brien, Caleb Malhotra, Marek Van Acker, Adam Banach, Adam Juracek, like Jet Lichenko, it just goes on. Jay McKee behind the bench, one of the top coaches in the CHL. Like it's a really impressive group here that Hyman's put together.
It really is. They've got a really balanced team. They got lots of weapons. They've got good goaltending. They got a good coach. So it's really fun to be around this group.
Ben Danford should probably throw his name in there as well. Maple Leaf draft pick. Really quickly, just because I'm a really big fan of Jay McKee and Burke. I think that one day he's going to coach in the NHL, whether there's a stop in between in the American League, maybe a stop as an assistant coach on an NHL bench. You remember him as a player, Buffalo Sabres, St. Louis Blues. He would do anything to win a hockey game, block a shot, get in a fight, whatever. Your thoughts on Jay McKee before we move on to more current issues?
Well, I like the way they play. I think he's a real good coach. I think he's going to be an NHL coach if that's what he wants to do. I'm very impressed with his demeanor. He's low-key, doesn't get excited, but he gets into the guys' heads the right way. I really like him.
Okay, news of the week, and we'll get into the Jack Hughes puck story here coming up in a couple of seconds, and the story is starting to at least finally wind down. But there was a lot this week, and it bled right into the general managers meetings, and we'll get into that with the Department of Player Safety and supplemental discipline. And Connor McDavid having a comment about process, and Judd Moldaver from the team representation agency, talking quite openly and candidly of his displeasure about the 5-game suspension to Radko Gudas for the knee on Austin Matthews. We've all had a few days to digest it and think about it. I've always maintained that there's no one better to ask about it than you, considering you wore the badge for a number of years in the NHL. What are your thoughts on what just happened over the past 7 days in the NHL around suspensions?
Well, what happened was a run-of-the-mill routine suspension to a star player was met with great acrimony and great bitterness by a number of people. And I say to everyone, just step back. The system works. It works well. I don't think it was a vicious hit on Austin Matthews. In other words, it was a suspendable hit. I think he should have got 7, not 5. But we can quarrel about the number. That's George Peros's job. He's the best at it. But it wasn't like he headhunted this guy. He lined up for a hit. Austin Matthews zigged. Player stuck his knee out. He hasn't been up in 5 years for suspension. So to me, it's making a mountain out of a molehill. It's unfortunate. You can't say a molehill about losing a player of Austin's caliber. I love this kid, but boy, it's a big stink about nothing for me.
There was a lot of talk this week about, process, and that was, one of the words that Connor McDavid did when he commented on it over the weekend. It's not as if there's a dartboard that the Department of Player Safety just sort of throws darts at. And I've maintained this from day one. There's history that they base it on, and it's not just George Peros waking up one morning and saying, this one feels like a 5 to me. There's people in the department that George talks to. There's people around the NHL that George consults with. Ultimately, he does have the final say, but it's not as if he does this in a vacuum, and it's not as if he doesn't use historical precedent for the suspensions. Having said all that, correct me if I'm wrong here, Burke, but if the general managers wanted to turn the heat up here and say, you know what, that 5, next year let's make that a 10. Or, that 10, next year let's make that a 15. If the managers wanted it, they could do that. I just don't think at the end of the day, and this is why I think this is going nowhere, Burke, I don't think managers look at this game and say, we wouldn't want a bunch of 10 or 15 game suspensions that are out there. We don't want our players out that long.
I hear these idiots say, well, every knee should be 15 games. Yeah, you can do that. You can make it automatic. You can make it like a speeding ticket. 6 miles an hour over, it's $100, right? You can do that, except they're all different. You'll get rid of hitting at the same time. This is done not just a really good bunch of players. George Peros, Stefan Quintel, Colin Campbell did it. I did it. Brendan Shanahan did it. I mean, Brian Whitney. All these key people. My son Patrick. All these people have worked on this with the union. Understand this. The union has a lot to say too. They designed the system.
So here's what I want to get to. I'm glad you got us to the union question, because the union here is in, as we've all discussed countless times, they're in a conflict of interest situation here too. Because one, they're there to defend Austin Matthews, yet at the same time still there to defend Radko Gudas. And I can't see a scenario where the NHL and Players Association sign off on a third party handling suspensions. This league and this Players Association doesn't want an outside agency deciding who's on the ice and who's off the ice, and those off the ice, they're going to decide how long they are off the ice. Honestly, Brian, I don't know that there's an easy way or an easy fix. I keep asking people, well, what should they do? What should be this new model? What should be this new process? And what I get back is, well, I don't know, but this one isn't working.
Oh, it is working. It works beautifully. It's just the odd one happens that people don't like. It's their team and their star player. They say it's got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed. The fact of the matter is, the union has signed off on this back from when I did it. The very first change we made at the NHL and the NHLPA was Brian O'Neill used to suspend guys. He'd fly them in for overnight, and they'd suspend them for 2 games. So I said to Ian Pulver from the union, who was my guy at the union, what do you want to change? He said, the guys hate flying in and getting 2 games. Okay, so if it's 5 or less, we'll do it by phone. That was the very first change we made, instigated by the union. And we set up everything. The introduction at the meeting, you go into the hearing, and it says this is hearings convened under the auspices of the NHL and NHLPA. There are no rules of evidence. Player can present any evidence he wants. It's all based upon the union and the league doing things together and doing things sensibly. No one's going to like every decision. It's like goalie interference. No one can agree with everything, but they do a great job.
Uh, when you were leveling out suspensions, what was your process? What did you do? Like, what went through your mind? I want to get to that Marty McSorley, Eric Lindros story in a second here, which was a fantastic one from your history. But like, what was your process for handing out suspensions?
Well, I sat down with Ian Pulver and I looked at some tapes and said, "What do you think this is worth?" And he wouldn't go first because he wanted me to go first. I'd say, "I think this is worth 5." So we get a tape would come in, an incident would come in from the league. We had 4 VCRs back then. 4 VCRs taping league stuff. That was it. So someone would send me a tape. I'd get a look at the tape. I'd call Ian. He would get the tape. I'd say to Ian, "I think it's worth 5." He'd say it's worth 4. He think it's worth 4. We'd argue about it. We'd decide. But there was a measurement. Like, this is the elements. The hit itself, how bad it is, whether there's injury, whether there's a repeat offender. There's a system to it, and we come up with a number, and it worked.
The Marty McSorley, Eric Lindros story is one of my favorites to share. So long, a million years ago, McSorley used to always try to get Eric to fight. And listen, you're Eric Lindros, like you're under no obligation to do so. But I guess the Lindros had scored a goal, Marty cross-checked him, and Eric instinctively threw his gloves off. And I guess probably realized pretty quick, oh man, I'm in a fight with Marty McSorley. Maybe the last place you want to be after scoring a goal. And there was some concern that during the fight, Lindros had bit McSorley. And I can't remember the specifics of you called Marty and you had either seen the tape or you hadn't seen the tape. You had heard about it, a lot of reports about it. And what did Marty say to you when you said, "Marty, I need you to tell me, did Eric Lindros bite you or not?" Can you share that story?
Yeah, it's true. And it sure looked like he did because he had his hand in his mouth.
Yeah.
And he pulled it away rapidly and in great pain. He said, "Did he bite you or did he not?" And he said, "No, he did not." He said, "You owe me one." Eric, you owe me one. So he said no, but I had to not suspend him.
So see, that's fascinating. Like that is from such an old school code of I'm not gonna rat this guy out. Right now, people fall over themselves just to get other players suspended. Yeah. Back then, for Marty McSorley to say, "Nah, he didn't bite me," and go tell Bobby Clark he owes me one. Like that's from a different era, Burke.
I know, very different. But there was some a little bit of a code there, a little bit of honor there. Marty's a great guy. He was really good about stuff like this.
Mm-hmm. General managers meetings this week. I want to get to a couple of the issues coming out of it, but one of the more memorable, while we're on story time here, one of the more memorable managers meetings ever, and it might have been Bettman's first, was the one where Bob Gainey and Serge Savard mixed it up. And you were there as an employee of the NHL. Like, it's not exactly a secret that Bob Gainey and Serge Savard didn't get along when the Montreal Canadiens were winning all those Stanley Cups. It happens. Not all players get along. And that sort of bled into both of them managing hockey teams at the same time. You want to go back and share that story with us?
Yeah, we were at Dana Point in San Diego, and it was early on, and Jeff Pash was still there. It's before Bill Daly took over. And these two guys started pushing and yelling and screaming, and they were chest to chest, pushing and yelling and swearing. And Jeff Pash said, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" I said, "I'm going to move some chairs. I want to make room for a fight." And Gary Bettman said to me, "You get in there and stop this." So I just stopped. I wanted to have a good seat for the fight.
Bob Gainey versus Serge Savard at a manager's meeting. Coming out of the manager's meeting this year, and I'm sure like if the walls could talk at all these meetings, I'm fascinated with managers' meetings. One of the things brought up is, and this has been going on for a while, the idea of the playoff format and that it needs to be changed. The idea of, like, you look at the Central Division. two of those three elite level teams are going to be out within 2 rounds of each other. When really you can make the argument, man, two of those two teams should be meeting for the Stanley Cup final. Do you have a thought on, because I maintain that even going back to 1967, there's always been arguments around how the playoff format should work. You know, the league doubles to 12, and you know the expansion teams are in one, and the 6 established teams are in another. St. Louis goes to the Stanley Cup final every year and doesn't win a single game. Problems with that. Problems when the Norris division, if you made 60 points, you got into the playoffs. Well, none of these teams, Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Minnesota, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs, where all these other teams that aren't making the playoffs, dude, there's never been a time where everybody's been perfectly happy with the playoff format. But given the one that we have now, Burke, A, do you like it? And if not, do you have another way around it?
No, I don't like it, but I've been saying that for years. This is not new. What bothers me is that you look at this horrible matchup, 2 and 3 playing each other in the first round, Dallas and Minnesota. Everyone's like, oh my God. Well, it should be based on one playoff matchup. It should be based on the system. I think the system is not equitable, and I've said that for years. It should be 1 through 8, reseed every round. I don't know why we're not doing this. But not because Minnesota and Dallas have a tough matchup, because what's equitable and what's fairest. You should get the weakest team every time when you reseed.
A couple of other things coming out of this week as well. Eric Tulsky with the Carolina Hurricanes, the reports are, got into let's just say an emotional discussion with the commissioner about the NHL taking its foot off the seriousness around headshots. How often is it? Here's my question. How often is it that managers are aggressive or challenge the commissioner in these meetings?
I think it used to be a lot more common. I know when Glenn Sather and I and Lou Lamoriello were in the meetings, we often had some spirited debates. I'm told that's gone by the wayside for the most part. But I heard it reared its head again this week. That's not all bad when the commissioner or one of his designates has a heated discussion. That's not all bad. The guys have to see that Gary's got a temper too, and he got a lot to say. He's a smart man. But I don't think it's all bad when a GM gets in there with Gary or Bill Daly or anyone else.
What was it like when you and Slats and Lou, et cetera, were at these meetings? Like, can you sort of walk us through essentially what happens at these things? Like, we talk about, reality TV in the NHL. One, let me see an arbitration hearing. And two, let me see what happens at the managers' meetings. What's a managers' meeting like?
Generally speaking, well, it's changed over time. When I first went to my first one, Gary had just started. My first meeting where we talked about rules, which is the March meeting now. And it was Gary's first meeting, and so it's very different than it is now. When I came in, Gary said, you run the meetings. You speak. Jerry Meehan ran the meetings on behalf of the GMs. And Gary said, no, you run the meeting. So I ran the meeting, and one thing Gary insisted on was preparation. We prepared so hard for those meetings. We thought of everything that could go wrong, every possibility. But they did get salty at times. Guys would tell me I didn't know what I was doing, and
I remember Doug McLean. You might have been there as part of this conversation when we all used to work together. I remember Doug telling me a story where one of the things that Bettman did is, and they went alphabetically, from Anaheim down. Is Gary Bettman had a slide with everybody's salary cap commitments, all the contracts up on a screen, and sort of went through them line by line and asked the managers to justify every contract. And I think he either opened the meeting or closed the meeting with, these are all the mistakes you guys have made, and now I have to fix them, i.e. we're going to have to go through another lockout here because you guys can't behave appropriately. Does that resonate with you?
No, but I believe it. I don't remember that, but I believe it. We did make some horrible mistakes. I mean, I'm guilty as anyone. We made some horrible mistakes. The problem with the salary cap is becomes a magnet. Look at all the teams. It was designed to be 1/3 at the cap, 1/3 at the midpoint, and 1/3 below the midpoint. That was the structure it was set up for. Ends up being 80% of them are at the cap. So it's been miss. That's why there's so much escrow money involved. We never hit those numbers. But I wouldn't be offended by that if that had happened. Mm-hmm. I wish I had $1 for every mistake I made as a GM. I wouldn't have to work.
But that's the thing. Like when you're in, I always say this about the same thing with hockey. Show me the perfect hockey player. Doesn't exist. Show me the perfect referee. Doesn't exist. Show me the perfect general manager. Doesn't exist.
Nikolai Kulemin scores 29 goals in Toronto. So I pay him like, okay, he's going to get 30 next year for the next 5 years. I pay him like a 30-goal scorer. Never saw 30 again. Yeah. So I'm stuck with that one, right? And that's my mistake. But Nikolai Kulemin was a great kid, too. We didn't mind paying him. But that's the type of mistakes you make. We all made them. We all make them still.
Let's get a couple of listener questions here. Let's get to Little Willie's question here, Zach, for Brian Burke.
This one says, I hope you're doing well. I'm reaching out because I'm interested in learning more about the mechanics of a trade. Could you walk me through exactly what happens during the transaction and how the various stages of the process come together? I would appreciate any insights you can share on how these deals are structured and finalized from some civilian named Willie.
Okay, I like the call sign. Okay, so this could be a very lengthy answer. I won't give you a very lengthy answer. I'll give you a shorter one. Some of these trades happen very quickly. Usually they happen over time. So I would call the other GM. Let's say a guy I like dealing with, Paul Homer. I call Paul Homer in Philly, and I always lay out exactly what I would move. I'd say, here are the draft picks I have I would move. Here are the left wingers I would move. Here are the right wingers I would move. Here are the D I would move. Here are the centers, no goalies. I don't have any goalies I can move. And here's what I need. I need a right wing who can shoot. I need some toughness. I need a D. And I'd see if there's a fit. If there's a fit, we'd circle back and say, all right, let's talk some more. If there's no fit, we move on and go our separate ways. But then if there is a fit, you say, all right, I'll call you back in an hour. Let me look at some of this stuff. See if there's a fit, move it closer, get some contracts, sign a guy maybe you need you to sign, whatever, and you get closer and closer to a deal. And when the deal is done, the league has to sign off on it.
So in these discussions, and I want to get to a Wayne Gretzky conversation here in 2 seconds. In these discussions, how often do you strategically, and maybe it just depends on the relationship that you have with the manager, how many times would you strategically want to talk about one player specifically, but you didn't want to bring them up right away? So you start by talking about a couple of other players and then finally arrive at the player you really wanted to talk about. Does that happen often?
That happens a lot, but not with me. There's no sense wasting time. I think you figure out right away, out of 30 GMs, I know there's more than 30, but out of 30, there's 10 you can make deals with, 10 you can maybe make a deal with, and 10 you have no chance of making a deal with. I would just focus on the first 10.
So here's an interesting Wayne Gretzky scenario. This is in Toronto. Bill Waters told me the story when I worked with Billy years ago at a Toronto radio station. He said he remembers getting a call once from Wayne Gretzky's agent saying, Wayne's always wanted to play for Toronto, close to his hometown. Well, where you are. Close to his hometown, wants to play in Toronto. He'd be willing to play for the Maple Leafs for $1 million. And Bill said, this is incredible. So Bill takes it to Cliff Fletcher. And Cliff says, don't call him back. And Bill's like, what are you talking about? It's Wayne Gretzky. He's going to come in for $1 million. He said, what'll happen is we'll start negotiating with Wayne's agent. It'll get out to the media. Then everybody in Toronto will expect that Wayne Gretzky is going to sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And $1 million will turn into $3 million because the market will expect it. From a GM's strategic point of view, Burke, does that story surprise you at all? Or do you look at that and go, yeah, you know what? That's a dynamic we've seen before.
That exact story happened with us when Wayne Gretzky went to LA. Pat Quinn called me and said, the word's getting out that he wants to come to Vancouver. Got to pour some cold water on it. So the first guy that called me was Gordon Miller. He was working in Red Deer.
Yeah.
I gave him the whole trade, so he's not coming here. And that was just to put cold water on it, because we didn't want fans in Vancouver expecting to get Wayne. We knew he wasn't going to come.
Amazing. Speaking of Vancouver, I'm pretty sure that Pat, well, listen, Pat, the great Irishman, had, I'm sure, a number of superstitions. And I'm always curious about superstitions either around the draft lottery or around the draft. Now, it's going to be May 5th for the lottery this year. What would Brian Burke, as far as lucky charms go, have at the draft?
I have a medal that was given to me, it was blessed by Pope Paul. I have 2 loonies that I had in my pocket when I made the Sedin deal. I carry those. I had a couple other things. The 3 or 4 good luck charms I carry with me at all times on big days, including at the draft and free agency and July 1. So yeah, I'm superstitious.
Has it always been that way for you, Brian, or did you sort of accumulate more superstitions along the way?
When I played, I wasn't very superstitious. I just put on my right skate. Always tied the right skate, left skate first, right skate second, whatever.
Yeah.
Had a set routine, but other than that, no, not very super. Last guy on the ice, last guy off the ice.
Taping sticks, heel to toe, gathers no snow, all those things we all grew up with too. You're the
But
same
very
guy?
run the mill. I played with some guys that are really superstitious, but
Well, I mean, a lot of guys like, don't touch my sticks. That's a superstition. But like, can you think of like guys that were like above and beyond superstitious?
Pat Lovett. I played with Pat Lovett at Providence College. He's a right shot defenseman. Pat Lovett would lay out all the stuff. He had his stick on the one, put on his gloves, his shin pads, and then get dressed. If you touched any of his stuff, you like kicked his stick or kicked his shin pad, he would go nuts. He would absolutely go nuts. So of course we all tried desperately to kick his stuff. But he's Pat Lovett, great guy. He's still around. Most superstitious guy I ever played with.
Amazing. Listen, on that, we'll let you go. Say hi to all of our friends at the Bulldogs, Spencer and Jay and Peggy and everybody there, and we'll catch up to you soon. I know you're traveling everywhere. Every time I mention something, oh yeah, Burke was just here. Oh yeah, Burke was just here. You've been everywhere lately, Brian. So we'll talk to you again soon from some other destination. Where are you off to next?
Off to Australia next Wednesday. A week from Wednesday.
When's the last time you were in Australia?
I've never been. My daughter's a semester abroad at Brisbane, so we're going to see her.
It's fantastic. Have a great time, and we'll hopefully catch up with you in Australia or when you're back here, and we'll hear all about your Australian trip. Thanks so much for doing this as always, Brian.
Thanks, Jeff.
There he is, the great Brian Burke from Brantford, home of the Bulldogs. I know he's gone. Zach, I'm pretty sure that he went there earlier this year as well on I don't want to say scouting trip, but just more like the thing that you need to know about Spencer Hyman, who's a general manager and co-owner of the team too. Like, he relies on advice from a lot of senior people around, and he has access to a lot of senior people, both through his brother, through his father. Like, just the last name carries a lot of currency, obviously, in hockey circles. And so I think Burke's been there a few times, and I think he's talked to the coaching staff a few times as well. So no surprise that he ends up in Brantford.
Yeah, I know for a fact he was there earlier because there was a couple of times him and I had gone back and forth, and we were arranging when and where he would be to join the show. And he was coming from Brantford or going to Brantford, so I knew that was in there. And I think he told us a story the one time about him going out there, and I think he loosely put it as scouting, as you kind of just mentioned. He was out there watching games, is kind of the wink that he had given to us when he went. I think he was just going out there and seeing what was up. Yeah, just going to watch games. But yeah, smart to have good people around you and in your organization. That was one of the things we knocked Kevin Adams for, and all of a sudden they bring in Yarmo. This guy starts slinging deals. Next thing you know, should be winning GM
Hey,
of the
how
Year award, Jeff.
about Sam Carrick with another couple of goals last night for the Buffalo Sabres? Right?
Is he got 4 goals and an assist, right, since he's joined Buffalo? I think
Couple
that's
of
what
fights.
the stat line's sitting at.
Love him in the room.
Unbelievable.
Like when you talk
Yeah.
about like home run, like listen, I don't know how far the Buffalo Sabres are going to go. All I know is I remember talking to Scott Niedermayer once, and I said, like, what was the moment like put you guys over the top in Anaheim where you're like, oh yeah, we're winning the Stanley Cup? And he goes, when Brian brought in Mayday. When Burke brought in Brad May, like that was the piece. And it's not like that's Scott Niedermayer saying that. Like that's Hall of Fame, one of the best defensemen of all time. Yeah, when they got Brad May. That's what put it over the top. I ain't saying that Sam Carrick's Brad May is going to bring the Stanley Cup to the Buffalo Sabres. All I'm saying is guy scoring goals, fighting everybody.
You're getting the itch here right
They're
now.
not
You're
winning the
seeing
Stanley
what's
Cup.
happening.
They're not winning the Stanley Cup.
You got to go out there. You're setting
They're
your
not.
bar low so that if they don't, then you don't get hurt that bad.
Well, you
But
think that
you went out there to Buffalo. You got to see.
You think the Swords are going to win the cup?
Look, I would say, do I think they're going to win it? No. Do I think that they have no shot of winning it? That's also a no. Like the East is pretty open right now.
Honestly,
Why
it would
couldn't
be
they get through the East?
It would be an incredible story. Like, first of all, it already is an incredible story. But like to get blanked for 14 years and then come back and win the Stanley Cup is like the most insane hockey story that we've seen in I don't know how long. That's a
it's nightmare fuel for me as a Leafs fan, but great story in general.
All you gotta do is miss the
That'll
playoffs
keep
for
me
14
awake tonight.
years, Zach. No, right? You'll be fine. Don't worry about that. Just miss the playoffs for a while. Listen, you're wearing a Sea Dogs hat. Just get really bad and get the first overall pick next year and take your boy from St. John. Right?
Yes, except the Philadelphia...
Landon
Dupont
looks pretty good.
yeah.
He kind of looks pretty good too.
Yeah, except if you are familiar, but if for other people aren't, that pick would be owned by what I believe would be the Philadelphia Flyers next year. So
that is what should keep you up at night.
Bit of a dilemma. Yeah, exactly.
That is the one that should keep you up at night, handing Landon Dupont to the Philadelphia Flyers. Oh,
yes.
Take that.
Yes, that will make me sick.
It's amazing.
Are you superstitious at all, Jeff, by the way? Are you?
No, I never really have been. There's one pair of socks specific. Actually, no, there is. There's one pair of socks that I wear specifically for big events. But no, I don't think like other than that, like there's nothing that I have to carry with me all the time. I don't know. You superstitious when you play it, or just superstitious in life? Because there's a difference, right? There's superstitious, and then there's just it's just a habit, and they're not the same thing.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to distinguish in my head when you guys were having the superstition conversation, because I think I had habit that turned into superstition, if that makes sense. Like I would do things that I knew I needed to do in order, whether it was the time I showed up at the rink, to like when I went to the washroom, to when I did the warm-up. And I know this is very detailed, but you know what I mean? Like get to the rink, change into my warm-up gear, take a piss, go outside and do my warm-up, come back in, drink this water, go to the washroom again, get dressed, and then go out for the warm-up. Because it was less so about, I think this is going to make me play good and do good things, but it was more like, this makes me feel comfortable and prepared for the game. So it was more habit, but it turned into superstition when I was in playoffs. And what I mean by that is like,
oh no,
if we went to the playoffs and things are good, it would be
nothing's getting washed.
Like anal about nothing's getting washed, nothing's coming out of the bag. Or if something got washed and something went well, it's getting washed again, and it will get washed every game until this thing goes sideways. So like those kinds of things turned into superstition, where for the regular season or just regular life, it's habit, not superstition. So I am superstitious, but it wasn't really like over the top until it needed to be.
Luke Robitaille would change his tape, like the color of his tape every period. I think it was like black, white, black, or the opposite. That was Luc Robitaille's
That's weird.
thing. So in the game, he'd use like one period to be black tape, white tape for 2 more periods. I'm trying to think of some of the other great superstitions that were out there. There's a
By
lot
the way,
of,
on the tape,
yeah,
did you see Carberry's comments about Cole Hudson's stick tape and what he said about
sock,
it?
the black sock.
Yeah, the sock.
No, what did
He's
Carberry
like, I don't get
say?
it. Does not.
Oh, yeah, it does nothing.
Effectively, but he
It
said,
does
I don't
nothing.
get
What
it.
do
It does nothing. It just adds weight to the stick. What are you doing? I'm like, yeah, you're correct. I don't get it either.
I was texting with someone. When he made his debut with the Capitals. Someone in the Hudson orbit, and I'm like, "What's up with the white stick, black tape with the going all the way up the shaft?" And he just wrote back, "That's what the kids call drip." I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
No, I don't. Like,
I see. Honestly,
No.
I look at this now and I say to myself, it's not for me, but like not everything has to be for me. I don't know. Does it look? Would I do that? No. But I ain't gonna sit here and cast aspersions on it because I'm sure there's a ton of kids. Like my oldest kid looked. That's one of the things. Hey, you see what he does with his sticks? Use tape. I was half expecting to watch him, but see him show up with that tape job for his skate last night, but he didn't.
Yeah.
But like, would you do that when you
No.
played? What was your goofiest
no.
tape job?
Well, the longer I played, the more I adapted to the thick tape because it meant less tape was on my stick, which meant the stick was lighter and I felt the puck better when there was that thick tape. So I would overlap it like a marginal amount, have really thick tape, and I wouldn't start it at the heel. I would start it about a third of the way up the stick. So there was just way less tape on it.
Did you ever use Gordie Howe tape?
But
You ever use the 2-sided tape, the Gordie Howe tape? As we used to call it as kids, the Gordie Howe tape, 2-sided. Have the puck stick on your blade longer. Then your blade weighs like a million pounds by the time the end of the game.
No, but when we were in midget, our whatever it's called.
You
now.
16,
Wrong
sir.
term for that. Sorry. Our equipment manager got us this spray that was specifically meant for something that he was using like as a mechanic, and he gave it to us that we would spray on our tape, and it would make the outside of the tape sticky. So it effectively was double-sided tape, but you sprayed it on, and then the tape would be sticky. Yeah.
And did you notice a difference? Seriously? Did you?
No. No. Unless you went out for warm up and then we're trying to do the Michigan for like the first 5 minutes, and then after that.
Yeah, before guys
was
figured out
useless.
how to do the Michigan, like, okay, I don't need this double-sided stuff anymore. I can actually do this. All right, let's get to Dave Pagnotta here, who's been listening to this stupid conversation for far too long. So let's end that goofy conversation and bring on someone who's going to bring some serious information. DFO insider Dave Pagnotta. Do you have anything to add to that? Either it's like the Cole Hudson stick with like the white shaft and the high black tape, or double-sided tape, or do you have anything to contribute to that conversation, Dave, or should we just move along?
No, to that one. Sorry, I muted. No, but having a mechanic try to find a solution to that makes that's 0% surprising, Zach.
Yeah, no surprise there. We're having an issue with your video right now. We're gonna get Dave back on because he's kind of frozen there. Our friend Dave, we don't want to. I'm always. Everyone can take screen caps. Oh, there we go. There we go. We got you back. Your video's good. Your audio's good. Your video's good. You hot? You good? Can you hear us?
I hope so.
There we go. Okay, we're back. Okay, so we've parked.
I think so. Yeah, everything good. There it is.
Yeah, everything's great. We parked the tape conversation. So to serious things around the National Hockey League. First of all, let's start with something juicy. Atlanta, Houston, I believe, are destinations A and destinations B. Expansion on the horizon. Dave Pagnotta.
Yeah, look, it's no surprise that with NBA going the expansion with regards to Las Vegas and Seattle and going through that process.
Yeah.
MLB talking about expansion as well. No surprise, really, that the NHL is going to get back on this train. And this has been something in the works for a while. I explained it earlier this week. They're not going to go through an official and formal expansion process because that's going out and finding people that might be interested in the league and groups and markets and all that. They know what their options are. You just listed two of them. Atlanta, and Houston. So once the ducks are in a row, then they will start to move those closer to the goal line. But look, Atlanta's building their facility now. They're building their entertainment district with Vernon Krause's group. All indications are that's the one that's ahead of the curve and ready to go once that is near completion. And at that point, they'll explore the expansion process on that end. Again, the league knows what their options are over there in Atlanta. They know they have options in Houston. Sounds like a couple. And they know they have interested parties in other markets as well. So to go through a formal process isn't necessary. They're just going to sit back, wait. And when somebody's ready to cough up $2+ billion, and it might be a lot more than that, they're going to sit back and say, all right, now we'll take that call.
Feels more like 3 now, doesn't it? That's 2B. That was the price 5 minutes ago, but now we're looking at 3B.
Right.
Thank you very much. On base or off base there?
No, I think you're right on. I mean, look, with Carolina putting their valuation at $2.66 billion and selling 12.5%. Before that was going on, at the start of the season, Vegas started the process to look for 10%, look to sell 10% of their club. At the time, it was $200 million. I'm not sure where that's gone. I don't know if there's already been an agreement in place. Mm-hmm. But if there isn't, I've got to imagine that $200 million is going closer to $300 million to have a $3 billion valuation on Vegas's franchise. If Carolina is looking at 2.6, Vegas is at least 3. So for an expansion side, you're definitely looking in that 2 to 3 range. Could certainly be closer to 3. A year ago it was 1.5. Right? Like the way that the league is on the incline is tremendously impressive. And then you make the argument, the NBA is looking for 7 to 10 billion for their franchise. To go at least 3 on the NHL side is not out of whack by any stretch.
A couple of the hot buttons. I want to get to Anton Salayev here in a couple of seconds, but just a quick. I don't know if you have a strong thought or feeling on a couple of the hot button issues from the week that was around the NHL. The Jack Hughes rake stepping, I want my puck back, and then the subsequent damage control that was done all. And Pat Brisson was on Chicklets trying to straighten things out. And what my client was trying to say is, and I understand it. Like I look at that one personally, Dave, and say, Jack Hughes, whether it's GTHL or NHL, has always grown up with. You score a goal, you get the puck, you get it, and there's tape on it, and your trainer writes down what the significance of it is. Like, that's just the environment that he's grown up in, and he doesn't, or didn't, obviously, know that is not player property, that is property of the IIHF/IOC, an arrangement with the Hockey Hall of Fame, and that's where it is going to nest, and that is where it is going to stay. Do you have a thought, like, was this the big issue, like, that it should have been? Because this was an issue that sort of dominated headlines this week after the interview with Greg Wyshynski at ESPN, or was it just a tiny little mistake made by a player who's just grown up thinking you score a goal, big goal, you get the puck?
Yeah, I think it was more that. I think it's been blown a little bit out of proportion. I get it. You scored the goal, you want the puck. You hit the home run, you want the ball. Kind of thing. I get it. I understand that. Now, you hit the home run, you may have to pay for the ball, but at least you can get the ball. In this regard, it's not like it's going to go anywhere. It's not like he's not going to know where it is. It's going to be in the Hall of Fame for however long. I think Sid's golden goal is still there. Yeah. So I mean, it's there. I'm sure they can make arrangements after the fact for him to have it, well down the line. But I think it was just, look, this is what I'm used to. I score my first goal, I get the puck. I do this, I get the puck, so on and so on. And I think the way it was worded, he may have wanted to do that a little bit differently. But we want authenticity from these guys, and when we don't get it the way we want it, we bitch and complain about it. So, you got to take both. You got to kind of take both sides if you want that realness from some of these guys sometimes.
I try to remind people this isn't the first time that this has happened. I mean, I know in Canada we like to point out, well, Sidney Crosby had no problem surrendering his puck and his gloves and his stick and his helmet or whatever to the Hockey Hall of Fame for the golden goal in 2010. forgetting that, we might have had like the OG big puck drama with 1972 in the Summit Series and Pat Stapleton taking the Summit Series puck, Game 8, Luzhniki Ice Palace, and then denying that he ever had it until video appeared of him actually fishing it out of the net. And then he sheepishly said, "Oh yeah, I have it, but I just, I was on the pond and I just fired it into a snowbank." Like if there's a puck that belongs in the Hall of Fame, certainly Jack's does, Crosby's does as well. But the 1972 puck should probably be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And Pat Stapleton, God rest his soul, stole it and then bluntly probably lied about where the puck was, and it never got to the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it's not as if Canadians, as much as we want to put ourselves on a pedestal here, are bereft from having our own, can we please have the puck drama? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. We're not all innocent in all that, certainly.
No.
But again, it was just like he spoke his mind. Again, probably if he had more time to think about it, probably worded it a little bit differently. Forget about getting coached by PR or the agent, but just in general, would have probably just, chose his words a little bit differently. But again, I think it's been blown a little bit out of proportion because I understand his side of it. But it is kind of what it is. If he wants it, I'm sure he'll be able to get it down the road. Like Sid can probably have his. I'm sure he'd want it, but at the same time, he understands, where things are at. I think that's kind of what Jack meant, but. It's not what he said, but probably what he meant.
I'm guessing that the NHL Department of Player Safety and George Peros was pretty happy that this became a headline maker, because it kind of took their headline off the map coming out of the general managers' meetings and the process and McDavid's comments and the Radko Gudas hit on Austin Matthews and needing things to change.
Yeah.
I kind of looked at this one and said, just give it time, and this, this fire will turn into a contained fire and then will burn out. And here we are heading into another weekend. Has this story now fizzled?
For now. Yeah, for now. I think this will be something that gets brought up a little bit later on again. But for the time being, you're right. I mean, this Jack situation took some headlines away from Department of Player Safety. It took a little bit away from, and it didn't give, I think, the GM meetings skerfuffles enough tension with respect to headshots, with respect to goaltender interference and things like that. The Department of Player Safety obviously kind of surpassed that a little bit, but then this Buck thing kind of took over. But I do anticipate, look, when Connor McDavid speaks up about something, especially this magnitude, it's going to garner attention. And it doesn't mean it's just going to get swept under the rug for the time being. It'll be maybe just pocketed for now. But this is going to be something that I've got to imagine they're going to discuss in the offseason with respect to how to move forward, not just with some of the rules that are in place, but how they go about suspensions, how they go about the process, and things of that nature. Because there's obviously a little bit of a disconnect between what the Department of Player Safety feels is accurate versus what some of the players around the league feel is as well.
Is the NHL about to get taller? We have, Tyler Myers and Matt Rempe and Soderblom, etc. Is it about to get even bigger? What is happening with Anton Salayev, first-round draft pick, New Jersey Devils, 2024, currently playing in the KHL?
And his contract expires at the end of the season in the K. They're in the playoffs right now. I think that starts in a few days over there. But the plan is for him to sign his entry-level contract with the New Jersey Devils and then come on over to our side of the pond. Now, not easy. It's not an easy process. There are a lot of hoops and all that to go through the visa process in order to come over. It's going to take a little bit of time. So depending on how long their season goes, that'll dictate how long this visa process is going to kind of play out. Now, my understanding is the goal for the Devils, for the player in his camp, is to be on this side of the pond in time for development camp at the end of June after the NHL draft, end of June, early July. So that's kind of the target to bring him over, sign, go through those steps in order to come over to North America and then be part of the Devils dev camp, once the draft passes. But that's the timeline. Every indication is he will be signing with the Devils. It's just a matter of his season having to end, and then after he signed, just how long it'll take for him to get over here.
College free agent season very much upon us. I really do wonder, as many, about TJ Hughes of Michigan, who is that kind of rare player that you get as the quote-unquote free player coming out of college. You don't have to pay a price other than the entry-level deal. And with Hughes, unlike a lot of other college players, you're getting offense, which is rare. We should point out too, but there's also Owen Michaels, et cetera, from Western Michigan. What is the latest for as far as that landscape goes, Dave?
Well, with a few of them, there are a lot of teams that are looking to make obviously those types of additions, and when you've got certainly a shallow draft pool or prospect pool, sometimes that's a bit of a sell-off for some of these college prospect free agents, where the competition is going to be a little bit less, which would suggest the pathway to the NHL is a little bit more vibrant, a little quicker.
Right.
Obviously, no guarantees. You got to play. You got to work at it. But just kind of looking at that, there are multiple teams, several teams that would love to get their hands on TJ and go from there. Obviously, sign him and then bring him into camp and so on, or have him start the season. But a lot of interest. In the player, I believe, Toronto's always been a team that's kind of been looking around the college ranks for some time, and this is a team with a pretty shallow prospect pool. So they're certainly one of the teams that I've heard kind of poking around at some of the college free agents, but I would imagine others within that category kind of would potentially fit that bill for him or for some of the others that are looking to take the next steps in their careers.
All right. Excellent stuff as always. Always enjoy Fridays with you, my friend. Enjoy your weekend, and we will touch base again next week.
You got it, buddy. See ya.
The great Dave Pagnotta, DFO Insider. Check out that show alongside Irfan Gaffar Wednesdays live at 3 o'clock Eastern right here at our Daily Face-Off YouTube channel, or listen/watch in the archive. Some interesting stuff there from Dave. Some interesting stuff before from Brian Burke as well, including some great stories. Anything coming out of Dave's report on the program there that spices your chili there, Sea-Dog?
The college free agents I'm most interested in. I think that's the one thing here in Toronto that we kind of have focused in on over the last little while. I'm not trying to make this Toronto specific, but the more I've gotten into doing what we're doing, the more it's interesting to see some of these guys coming through and the process in which they're taking to go and find teams and teams going to find them.
Yeah.
TJ Hughes, I mean, we got to meet with him in
Michigan.
Michigan.
Great kid, eh? He's a kid. He's 25.
Great kid.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, true.
Great young man. How about that?
It's 2 years younger than me. I can't really say kid. I think that probably goes out the window. But, yes, great young man. Great player. Very intriguing to see just kind of these guys go through. And
you get points. Like, that's the thing about TJ
know.
with a lot of of college free agent players, like forwards. You don't get points. You don't get offensive production. Now, the three, I think his top three, I was in this on Sekeres and Price the other week, the top three college free agents, as far as production goes, Adam Oates, number 1, Marty St. Louis, number 2, Joey Mullen, number 3. So there have been some that have put up monster points, obviously, in the NHL. But as far as undrafted college players that you get at the end of the season, generally you're not getting offensive production. But with TJ Hughes, you are. Right. Someone's getting a real good player here in TJ Hughes.
Yeah.
Edmonton, by the way, was in to see him a couple weeks ago at Michigan. I just throw that out there for nothing.
Yeah, for nothing.
Just
throw that one out there, a little side thing just for people.
Owen Michaels, what?
Yeah,
Western
well,
Michigan,
also
what?
coming from a great program too, right? So that's the other thing under Brendan Naurato. I mean, the college free agents are all interesting at this time of year. I think they're kind of fun because it's the one little piece of catnip that a lot of fan bases get at the end of the year as well when their team's not going to be in it and
free player
don't have the prospects and everything. So
free
players, the concept of free players. But
yep.
The thing that most interested me out of the entire week, to be honest,
yes,
outside of the puck, which I mean some people seem to be not that interested in. The thing that interests me the most is the playoff format and how stuck Gary was to the idea of keeping the playoff format the same. And that's the one that I think could use the biggest revamp. I know what you think.
My conspiracy theory is setting up an easy win for the next commissioner, Bill Daly. Set up an easy win.
And I think that that's a great theory. I can't disagree with it. I just need to see it in action. Because I think we've gotten to a point here now where Chris Patrick was right yesterday. We've seen this problem before. It just never was made as big of a deal of when this has come up previously. But it's gotten to a point where it's like, hey, we've experienced this enough. It's a problem every time. We're all having frustrations with it. It's going to come to a head. And I just want to see action taken on that. But I don't know, like, my question to you would be, what would you expand? What would you change the playoff format to? What is your ideal playoff format if you change it tomorrow? You're the commissioner. You go in there. You are in charge of changing the playoff format. Do you change it? And what do you change it to?
It's all about what the fan base wants. It's not about what I want. It's not about, because listen, if you just want to have the
Jeff, I'm asking you as a fan. What do you want? I understand what you're saying. I agree with you, but I'm asking you what you want.
What I want is a shorter regular season and a longer playoff. And some opening rounds that are best 2 out of 3 in the process as well. That's what I want. But then I catch myself and say, you just want that because that's what you grew up with. Right? Like, that's like when I was a kid, first started falling in love with hockey. Like, okay, this round is 2 out of 3. I always found interesting, although it's not great for rivalry, 1v16.
That's what I find the most interesting. That's the one that interests me the most right now. I think it's more topical, especially considering right now. I don't know if you saw the screenshots people were putting out there. I know you know the results, but the screenshots
I know.
In specific yesterday about the Pacific. I was fumbling on those words there and getting your saying mixed in my brain at the same time, trying to get that one out. But the Pacific Division, how they fared against the Eastern Conference, and then when you look at the Eastern Conference compared to the West right now and where they would stand, it would be kind of fun on some of these years to just have some of those teams go together, go up against each other.
Do you have it handy?
I'm pulling it up right now, what the standings are, the league standings. And just, I was trying to find that tweet, but like if you look across the league right now, your top teams would include Dallas and Colorado as your 1 and 2, and then these are the teams you have after. Carolina, Buffalo, Minnesota thrown in there. So there's the third team. Those are all the central teams. And then it goes Tampa, Montreal, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Boston, Columbus, the Islanders, the Sens. And then it goes out to the west, the Ducks, then the Flyers, Mammoth, Oilers, and it kind of goes back and forth. But you look at those top teams right there. There are 3 teams from the Central that fit at the top, and then it is all Eastern Conference teams the rest of the way down.
Yeah, that happens. All right, let me get something here. I'm getting like shut out of my email. Oh man, okay, I gotta fix that. Do you have the FanDuel script for your segment handy?
Yes, I do.
Can you talk yourself in?
Yep, I can do that.
This is all going to be
the sheet is powered by the sheet is powered by FanDuel. Play your game with FanDuel. It's the NHL season, and FanDuel is your home for all the action on the ice. From Blue Line to Bet Slip, we've got you covered all season with unique promos, live offerings, and more features to let you play your game. Miss puck drop? No sweat. With a live same-game parlay, you can build your bets up until the final buzzer. Download FanDuel Sportsbook today and play your game. Please play responsibly. You must be 19 or older, physically located in Ontario. If you have questions or concerns about your gambling or the gambling of someone close to you, please contact Connects Ontario at 1-866-531-2600 to speak to an advisor free of charge.
Good job, man.
Jeff, your shine spots.
Yes.
Over to you.
No, this would be yours shine spot. You've already queued yourself up quite nicely. And what do you have for us today, middle-aged Zach? Almost called you.
Well, it's it's very obvious here that the Maple Leafs missing the playoffs and the draft pick dilemma that we're facing right now. It's weighing on me, Jeff. It's been something that is just crushing me, and the weather being what it is, having to deal with the move that I just did, it was just making every day, that much worse, that much heavier for me. But then over the last couple of days here, I've gone outside, the snow's cleared away, the sun is coming out, the sun is out longer in the day, earlier in the day. It's just a more enjoyable vibe.
That's great.
Jeff, seeing green cutter through the frost takes the pain away from what the Maple Leafs are doing to me right now.
Very good, very good. I saw this one coming a mile away. Ryan Green, Cutter Gauthier, Morgan Frost, who hails from
Aurora, Ontario.
There you go. I was waiting for that. It took you a little bit long. $5 wins you $332.12. Ryan Green, Cutter Gauthier, Morgan Frost. Find the back of the net so Zach can make a couple of bucks for the weekend. Anything for you coming up this weekend, or is it more just decorating your new place?
Leafs and decorating. Leafs and decorating. We go one step forward, two steps backwards in terms of clutter around the apartments. We've built this, and now I have 17 boxes of things to take to the recycling. Great job, Zach. And more things show up, and more things show up. So,
how many times have you and your girlfriend said, we are never doing this again?
Well, I told her definitively, I said, the next time we move, we will be buying everything from scratch. Nothing is coming with us. We will be leaving everything we own here. It goes to the next owner of the apartment. And we'll be in a new place with new things. Yes, because I am not enjoying this.
Okay, it's the bane of everybody's existence. Don't feel special. Don't feel special on that one. But listen, have yourself a great weekend. I like how you mixed up the Bulldogs and the St. John Sea Dogs. We'll get you into a Western Hockey League hat at some point, maybe even next week. Representing the O and the Q. We'll see about the dub. All right, there we go. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Really appreciate it, as always. It's going to be a little bit, I think we're pretty solid for next week. There's an outside chance we might be broadcasting from a different location Friday and Saturday. More on that coming up at the beginning of the week. But thanks to Dave Pagnotta, DFO Insider, for stopping by every Friday. Thanks to Brian Burke for pushing Wednesday to Friday. Today, thanks to Burke for some of the great stories and insights on running what we now call the Department of Player Safety. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, we thank you. If you're watching us on our Daily Face-Off YouTube channel and have subscribed, we thank you there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. A lot of great offerings here. Not just our little act, but other programs as well. Starting your mornings with Morning Cuppa Hockey, to say nothing of DFO Live, and to say nothing of DFO Insider Edition with Irfan Ghaffar and Dave Pagnotta, our Friday guest right here on The Sheet. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Jeff Marek along with you. Hope you enjoyed the program today. If you did, or maybe even if you didn't, they can't all be gems, folks. Please hit the subscribe button. Also a reminder, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Johnny Lazarus, Colby Cohen, I call them the Impact Players. You might know them as a tandem that makes up the Morning Cup of Hockey. Also DFO Live at noon Eastern. This year, your host Tyler Yaremchuk alongside Carter Hutton. Full day's worth of programming right here on Daily Face-Off, your favorite YouTube hockey channel. And as a reminder as well, Zach Phillips, our producer here for The Sheet, said if you subscribe, he'll buy you a puppy. It's true.